All right, guys, good afternoon. It is 5:40 p.m. on Tuesday, July 9th, 2019. Hope everybody's doing well. And, I said I was going to make another video here once I had some things to report in terms of some changes in the way I trade and uh, just some minor things. This video is not about that. This is actually going to be a video on some upcoming very important news. But I will say, in terms of what I was referencing in my last video about the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. It definitely holds true, and I would suspect probably in about the next, by the end of this week or next week, I will be making a video on some of the tweaks I've made in terms of what I use. And you can see a chart right here, right now. This is something that I'm playing around with a little bit. So, anyways, but to the main topic at hand, guys, because this is really why I'm making this video. So tomorrow and Thursday, we will have some very, very, very important news out of the United States and Canada. But let's talk about the U.S. first. So tomorrow, we have Fed Chair Powell testifying to the U.S. House of Representatives at 10 a.m. New York time. And then he's also testifying again on Thursday at 10 a.m. to the U.S. Senate. Okay. Now, here's the thing, guys. The U.S. dollar has been under a lot of pressure lately, and the market pretty much has fully priced in that the Fed is going to cut rates at the end of July. Okay. So when they meet, when they have their rate announcement later this month, fully expect that we will see a rate cut of probably, 0.25% or so. It could be more, but around 0.25%. It's pretty much already been priced into the market. Okay. So with that being said, what we're going to have to look for when Jerome Powell speaks to Congress tomorrow and again on Thursday, and also on Wednesday at 2 p.m., we actually get the FOMC monetary meeting minutes. So here's the three main things. 10 o'clock New York time tomorrow, he speaks to the House. And then 4 hours later, we're going to get the FOMC meeting minutes. And then on Thursday, he's going to speak to the Senate. Now, chances are anything he says at the to the House and Senate are going to probably be pretty much the same. It'll basically be politicians asking him questions, probably asking him the same question, just 5 different ways. And so I suspect that most of the cat will be out of the bag in terms of what he's going to say after tomorrow. And then the FOMC minutes later in the day will reinforce that, and then we'll have probably just a reiteration on Thursday. So I think by the end of the day tomorrow, we'll probably know what's going on. And so here's the thing, guys. Again, the stock market has been rallying, and the U.S. dollar has been under a lot of pressure, albeit a recent we had a really good jobs number last Friday, so that gave the dollar a bit of a reprieve because the U.S. Non-farm payrolls came out stronger than expected. And that caused the U.S. dollar to rally for a couple of days following that report because that number was better than expected. But other than that, the U.S. dollar has been under a lot of pressure. And the Fed, and like I said, the market has pretty much already priced in this rate cut. So the key is going to be what he says tomorrow and Thursday and what's in the FOMC minutes. Okay? If he comes out and he says something to the effect of, well, we're probably going to move ahead with a rate cut at the end of this month. But beyond that, we're going to take a much more cautious view, or we don't see the need for another cut beyond that, given the recent data, or anything where he kind of takes the foot off the gas in terms of rate cuts, then you are going to see the U.S. dollar rally pretty hard, and you'll see the stock market fall. because again, the market has really been expecting them to be pretty aggressive in rate cuts. There was, some stories out there saying that by this time next year, they expected the Fed to lower the rate a full percent lower than it is now. So, do, 3 or 4 quarter point rate cuts between now and then to lower it down. If he backs off from that at all and suggests that maybe they're going to take more of a wait and see attitude, or maybe a slightly less dovish or less bearish viewpoint on future rate cuts, then expect the US dollar to rally significantly. So either way, guys, if you are holding US dollar trades and for any pair, I'd be very cautious heading into tomorrow, okay? I'm not telling you to close them or do whatever, you do what you want, but just manage them. Just be very aware that this could be very market moving. And if you're on the right side of it, you can really make some good pips probably out of this. And I think the better trade would be for that scenario to play out where he backs off some of the bearish talk, even if they do decide to move ahead. And so, guys, you probably all have heard the phrase in the past, buy the rumor, sell the fact, okay? So basically what that means is, and this happens in all financial markets, where the market's expecting a certain outcome. So let's say they're expecting something positive, so they're buying up that instrument heading into the news for days or weeks heading in. They'll buy, and then when the news actually comes out, even if it comes out as expected, then all selling occurs. And because basically at that point it was already priced in, it was not a surprise, it was nothing new, so then traders take it as an opportunity to take profits. And you see it go the other way. And this is what catches people off guard and say, well, fundamentals don't work because the news was positive, yet the market sold off. Well, you have to know what the larger picture is, what the market's expecting, and what it's been feeling leading into that news. And so this is one of those possible scenario, guys, where the market has been expecting this rate cut, expecting the Fed to be bearish, and if they back off from that, you could see it reverse. So it's not quite the same, but in this case, it could be, sell the rumor, buy the fact, because the dollar's been going down, and then if you back off, it rallies, so the dollar will become more bullish. Now, how long that lasts, I don't know, but in the short term, it could be a good trading opportunity. Now, on the other hand, if he comes out and he says, well, yeah, the job numbers were really good last week, and some of the data has been okay, but we're still a little pessimistic about the future, and we can definitely foresee more rate cuts coming. Then the dollar will continue to be under pressure, and the stock market will continue to rally, and the market will just keep chugging along, expecting more rate cuts. So the devil will be in the details, guys, to know what he is thinking and what the Fed is thinking. And we will know that by the end of the day tomorrow. We'll know it by certainly probably during when he's testifying tomorrow, and certainly by later in the afternoon during the late New York session when the FOMC meeting minutes come out. And then when he testifies again on Thursday, it'll probably just be a reinforcement of whatever happens. So my advice to you guys is make sure you stay very close to your news feeds, to your squawks, whether you use, you have a paid service, or whether you use something like Forex Live, which is an awesome real-time blog, and it's free, of course, or Financial Juice, which is a aggregate site. They aggregate news stories from other financial sites, including Forex Live. So this is a Forex Live symbol here. So all these are also, they aggregate from like FX Street, Forex Live. So Financial Juice is great. And they actually just launched this beta version of a live news squawk voice service here, which is free. It only operates during the New York session, but it's actually pretty good. So Financial Juice is another one, or, Daily FX or FXStreet.com. Any of these is fine, but I prefer either Forex Live or Financial Juice. So stay close, especially if you have US dollar positions open. If you're on the right side of it, you can do really well. If you get on the wrong side of this, you can hit some drawdown pretty hard. The other thing, guys, I just want to mention about why possibly it might go the way I said at first, which is Powell comes out and says, we're going to cut this now, but we're going to, back off being really aggressive with future cuts, is because the president has basically been getting a lot of political pressure by the Trump administration to cut rates in order to help with the trade deficit and negotiations with China, et cetera, to make the U.S. dollar a little bit weaker. And these other, the president, probably rightfully so, accuses China of devaluating their currency so much that it undercuts the United States. So, and Powell has said that he doesn't want political pressure to play into this, and he wants to stay neutral. So that maybe is that like tipping his hand a little bit, that he's going to say, we're going to cut now, but we're not going to be influenced by politics, or will he give in and not push back? So this is from my Forex source, which is my paid service, but it talks a little bit about this. There's you can Google, Powell, Trump, political, meddling of rate cut, and you'll find some stories on the Washington Post and places basically saying the same thing. So the question is, like I said, will Powell stand up and say, no, we're not going to be pressured into that, or will he kind of like agree with Trump and say we need to cut more? Okay, so this is a really interesting dynamic that's part of this. But like I said, guys, just make sure you're on the right side of this, because if he decides to back off the dovishness, then the dollar is going to rally pretty hard and the stock market will go down. If he maintains, then we will just keep chugging along. The dollar will keep going down and the stock market will keep rallying. If he gives any hint that there will be more cuts, and they're pretty much on track to continue to cut. And a lot of that, I think, will also come out when the FOMC minutes come out tomorrow afternoon, where you'll actually be able to read the analysis and hear from all the other Fed members that participated in producing that report. All right, so anyways, guys, that's the main thing. I did want to mention also that tomorrow morning at the same time that Powell starts to talk, we have the Bank of Canada monetary policy report and rate statement. They are not expected to change the rate, okay? So that is pretty much guaranteed. They're going to keep it at 1.75%. So again, as always, the rate statement, and then at 10:15, Bank of Canada Governor Paloz will have a press conference. So all this is going to be going on at the same time. Fed Chair Powell, and the BOC and the BOC press conference. So pairs like if we get some deviation in opposite directions, something like the U.S. Canadian would be an awesome pair to trade if we get some divergence between the two currencies. And so basically what's expected with the Bank of Canada, their data has been actually really good as of late. And so the Bank of Canada is one of the few central banks that hasn't kind of jumped on board the rate cutting train. So if they come out with a statement basically saying, hey, things are really good here and we're going to stay the course and we don't see any real need to get dovish and start cutting, then the Canadian dollar is going to rally hard. If at the other hand they say, well, yeah, the data has been good, but we don't know if it can be sustained long term, and we still see a lot of risk in the market, then even though there's no cut, then you can expect the Canadian dollar to fall pretty hard, as the buyers throw in the towel that the Bank of Canada may eventually end up cutting anyways, despite the positive news. So again, guys, this one could go either way. It's going to be very key to what the statement says and what the governor says in the press conference afterwards. But if we get any divergence, let's say Fed Chair Powell says, we're going to back off a little bit on our rate cuts, and at the same time the Bank of Canada says, yeah, things have been good, but we're pretty leery about the future, then that would be an awesome trade to buy the U.S. Canadian. Or vice versa, if Powell becomes more, continues to be more dovish, but the Bank of Canada remains really positive and says, hey, we're not doing anything, we're riding, staying the course, then selling the U.S. Canadian would be a good option. So the U.S. Canadian, either way, a good trade if you get divergence between what these two major currencies are doing, and we're going to know that pretty quickly. If they're both on the same page, where they're both dovish or both bullish, then don't expect there to be much movement in the U.S. Canadian, and look to trade other pairs besides that. But if there's divergence in their policies, that's best of both worlds, and that could be a really good trade, whether it's up or down. So keep an eye on that, guys. Those are the two main things. All this is happening tomorrow and into Thursday, but primarily tomorrow. We also will get US dollar CPI on Thursday, very important number, and then Powell will testify again. But the CPI numbers are going to be taken with a grain of salt in light of what they decide to do in terms of outlook from the Fed. So the CPI number can really be important, but how important it is going to depend on where they foresee things going forward. So anyways, guys, the easiest way to track all this, just keep an eye on your news feeds. Go to Forex Live, read some of the analysis and what they're expecting, but I pretty much just told you the main points and what could potentially happen one way or another. But could be a good trade and probably the best opportunity for the week. And certainly, for this time of year when things are pretty slow in the Forex market, it's really hard to get trends and big impulsive moves going because the market just doesn't have as much volatility this time of year, and a lot of traders take the summer off, and the big banks and hedge funds, a lot of people vacationing. There just isn't a lot to really move the market. So something like this definitely could help, get it going. So, but you want to make sure you're on the right side of it. So anyways, guys, I hope that helps. I'm not even going to bother looking at charts right now. Perhaps I'll make another video after all this shakes out, and we'll take a look at the charts then and maybe talk a little bit more again about what I'm going to be tweaking with my own trading here in terms of my technical analysis anyways. Fundamentally, I'm not changing anything, but technically I'm experimenting with different things, as I mentioned the last time. All right, so that's it, guys. I hope everyone has a fantastic night. Be careful tomorrow. Practice good risk management either way, but be prepared for potentially a good trading opportunity in the US dollar and maybe the Canadian dollar as well, either together or separately. So, all right, guys, so that's it, and I'll make another video, and I'll talk to everybody soon. Thanks.